Godzilla whooped ass. Kong still get his ass whooped.
You're listening to the MCSFO podcast, where we speak one language, sci-fi.
All right, guys, we just came out from seeing Godzilla X Kong in IMAX, and we are over the moon. This movie was awesome, way better than the other ones that they did. So whoever want to go first, give me your overall thoughts and opinion.
Sure. So there are two types of Godzilla movies. There's the serious ones and then the ridiculous ones. And this was a ridiculous one, and it was wonderful.
Yes, I agree. The -1 was definitely a different type of film. You can love them both equally for different things, but this one was a great ride, right?
It was. The director knew the assignment. They came prepared. They gave us what we wanted. Loved it.
They did such a good job. Did you feel like it was also kind of long with just more action after action?
It did. It felt that way a little bit. A lot goes on. There's a number of steps. It's broken up. I felt like the pacing was pretty good. Could have been a little quicker, but overall, I loved the film.
Yeah, I did too. What did you think?
Yeah, no, it's tons of fun. I really enjoyed how much more globetrotting they did in this one. Like, we saw Godzilla in Rome. We saw Godzilla in France. We saw him in Rio. There was just so much globetrotting that happened that made it feel even bigger, and all the Hollow Earth stuff, and every single action fight scene was just perfect. So it was a lot of fun.
I know. What'd you think?
I think this was probably one of the most fun rides that you can ask for. Like, for sure, as far as Godzilla movies go, you have very artistic ones, more like Godzilla -1, and those ones are a little more somewhat highbrow compared to a lot of other things. It's more human element, more drama, whereas this one is fun and action and excitement, and it just makes you feel more like a kid again.
But what did you think?
I actually loved it. It was like a kaiju movie done well. I love the subtext between the kaiju, like in terms of like the dialogue communication between them. They never done that before. They actually got it right. I'm glad there wasn't a lot of human interference like the previous movies were.
Right.
So I definitely love that about it, and it was just done right. And I'm gonna go see it again.
So what did you think of Godzilla X Kong movie?
I think it was good. It was good. I would say at first it had a slow start, but the action, you couldn't beat the action. The action was good.
I think that for me, the difference with this one is that they brought in writers. They brought in people who were more connected to the original Godzilla, like the old stuff.
Yeah.
And I think they were more. It seems like a fan did this movie, right? Than Suits. They let the Suits, go in there and put them and pay for everything.
Right.
And it's like fans did that. Those were fans.
They did. They went right into it though. Like this was definitely a good action movie. Like they didn't waste any time. It wasn't much like dialogue. It went straight to it. So yeah, that was good.
Oh yeah, and then Mothra. They got Mothra right. I felt like Mothra was done because I forgot what the other. I think that was King of the Monsters when Mothra's in it, and visually it wasn't done as well.
Yeah. Now they did a lot of close-ups. Yeah, they really like you said visually. I feel like they upped their game.
What did you think, my dear?
That was some next level ridiculousness.
Some next level, right?
I'm coming from a place where I didn't grow up with Godzilla movies, or if you're a monster movie fan, this is your mecca. I totally get it. For me, the ridiculousness I had a hard time grabbing onto, like
when they were being too silly.
Over and over and over, from the fact that the young lady who's the head scientist knows this language that nobody else on the planet.
No, but see, you know what? That's a good point. That's a good point. There were a lot of parts of the movie that didn't make sense. I don't know. I get what you're saying, but like all of those silly parts that didn't make sense and just all of a sudden happened miraculously, I can dismiss those for the fun. It's a trade-off.
It's a trade-off. And I think the pace that you're talking about, like you didn't have a second to mourn that guy's loss. I think that was very smart because they don't want you to stop and think about wait, was that really ridiculous? Did I just want? If you stop and think about it, you'll think this is kind of nuts. But if you just keep going on to the next crazy thing, then you're constantly just like boom, boom, boom. And I think the pace of that actually, for better or worse, sustained that all the way through.
Yeah, it definitely did. All right, so we got another opinion out here of Godzilla Kong movie. What did you think of it?
I am not a fan of this movie. I give it a solid 2 out of 10. 2 because you had
Wow.
Godzilla and Kong, so that's 2 characters at least that I was mildly entertained. Everybody else, I don't want to be too harsh about it.
Well, I mean, be honest, but don't feel bad
Yes.
about ragging on it if you didn't like it.
So the action was fine. The CGI definitely was bombastic and kind of looked off at times, but maybe that was also because it was in IMAX, and that definitely brings out more clarity. The human characters, when you come to movies like this, you don't really come for those kind of characters. It's kind of like Transformers. They're almost. I saw this as one of the sequels to Transformers, not the original.
I can see that. Not to compare the two, because they're two completely different movies, but by any chance, did you see -1, Godzilla -1?
I have not, to be honest. But I did hear a lot of great things about that, and I know maybe some people are okay with going from Godzilla -1 to Godzilla.
They're two different movies, though. They're complete. You don't go in with the same
Some people-
expectation or the same thought. You don't go with the same brain. For me, yeah.
That is true. But we know Godzilla -1 was not made by American filmmakers.
Right.
This one was. So in a sense, some people are saying Godzilla -1 puts us to shame with the way we do Godzilla, because we don't really give it the love.
No, they shouldn't say stuff like that, because I've been watching Godzilla since I was a child. When I was a kid, I loved it, because you're a kid, you don't really know what's good and what's not good because you're just a kid. But when I go back and look at the old ones now and comment, and they play all the old Godzilla movies, when I look at it, of course it's silly. There are a lot of the movies that was silly. It wasn't all, like artsy, like -1. Don't get it twisted. There were some that were better than others, but like when you think of Gamera was made for kids. It was really more for for children, and so some of them were very silly. So I just feel like they both have space in the world to live separately. One's a more bubblegum fun ride. We laugh, we enjoy it. We know not to take it but so seriously. We know all the details are not going to be explained well. You go in knowing that. Whereas when you want something done really well, more artistic, more with a lot of more drama, then that's what -1 gives you.
It's like going from The Dark Knight to Batman 1966.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's like
you know what you're looking. Yeah, but to me, this one was still way better than the other. What was it? King of the Monsters and all the other films. To me, this was one of the best ones for me. I really enjoyed this one a lot. But yeah, I really appreciate a different point of view though, because for those out there want to hear that, that's really important. So thank you. It had a nice balance of so much comedy from the little mini Kong that I was just floored. It was like the directors must have been fans of Boondocks, because I thought that little kid was like little Riley. He was so big and bad. He was so cute and so funny. And then he got on the side of Godzilla, which I was so happy about, because he was just like a little baby kid. He was like, get out of here, little kid, little rugrat, And it was done very, very well.
I would say he was definitely the Tim Drake to his Batman. Out of all the Robins, that was very Tim Drake coded versus any of the other ones that they could have chosen.
But what did you think?
Godzilla whooped ass. Kong did get his ass whooped. I feel bad for Kong, but he did a good job. But no, it was fun. It was real fun.
Yeah, Kong definitely held his own when it was time to. He pulled it in there. Yeah. What did you think of it?
Very dope, very dope. Only thing I wish is that they would have wrapped up my boy from ATL, being they talked about his podcast the whole time. at the end and kind of, just wrapped it up just a little bit. That's all I wish, but it was dope. Yeah.
Do you think there was a balance with all of the visuals and the VFX? Like, that was incredible.
Yeah, especially when they went to the subterranean Hollow Earth.
Yeah.
Especially, like, I love the visuals of that and, like, the crystallization of the pyramids and things like that. Of course, they go to the pyramids again, so, they go over to Africa. They always go to Africa, and they always go to credit, But I love that, though. That was good, though.
What about the scene where it was like upside down and all that? I feel like they could have taken a little bit of a cue from Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. It had a little of that visual effect to me in it. When I was sitting there, my head kept turning. I was just like, "What's happening?"
I like those shots, like when they went through the portal, when they would go upside down and turn, like different shots like that. I love that. Visually, it was stunning.
It was definitely some Marvel in there a little bit. You had the Guardians of the Galaxy a little bit with the humor of it, the music, so definitely, yep.
Visually, it was stunning. With the gravity scenes, and they were fighting it, without the gravity when they were floating. Yeah, that was amazing.
Yeah, no, the gravity, anti-gravity, all that scene was dope. And then the way the angles, everything, they did their thing. Yes.
I'm so happy.
Yeah.
Because they screwed it up before so much.
I would like for them to have been more in depth with certain. Like characters, like we were even talking about the podcast that the gentleman had, kind of like wrapping that up, being more in depth, but, they can do only but so much. But they did focus on the visuals a lot.
Yes, Yeah, there was a lot going on, especially too, because they didn't want to balance and have too much about the humans, because that was my biggest critique. Even though with the podcast, it would have been nice to have a little bit more of him in it, but traditionally, even when you look at some of the old not black and white, but just some of the old ones, it wasn't about the humans as much. They were there, but we weren't really involved in their business. They were just to give us a break from the fight scene, just to give us a little break. Then they would cut to the humans and see what they're talking about. But it really was never about them. So I was more surprised that they had more monsters than I didn't expect. I forgot what they call it. I'm calling it Icezilla. Icezilla. I wasn't expecting Icezilla. So I thought that was done very, very well. And so it was. And then the other snake-looking monster, I wasn't expecting that. Like, it had more creatures than I expected, because you don't see all of that in the trailer. I love the fact that they balanced that out. Yeah. That was really, really nice that they did that.
If you're a monster movie fan, this is your mecca. I totally get it. For me, the ridiculousness I had a hard time grabbing onto,
when they were being too silly?
Over and over and over, from the fact that the young lady who's the head scientist knows this language that nobody else on the planet.
But see, you know what? That's a good point. That's a good point. There were a lot of parts of the movie that didn't make sense.
And then when my man got swallowed by the tree, I feel like they didn't give him time to digest that. That just happened. It reminded me of Deep Blue Sea, that scene. Samuel Jackson. It reminded me, and you have to take a moment. It needs to be a pause. But they didn't. It was like let's go.
I agree. They just wanted him to get his comeuppance, and we knew it was coming because he was talking all that stuff. And so I don't know. I get what you're saying, but all of those silly parts that didn't make sense and just all of a sudden happened miraculously, I can dismiss those for the fun. It's a trade-off.
And I think the pace that you're talking about, you didn't have a second to mourn that guy's loss. I think that was very smart, because they don't want you to stop and think about, wait, was that really ridiculous? Did I just want? If you stop and think about it, you'll think this is kind of nuts. But if you just keep going on to the next crazy thing, then you're constantly just boom, boom, boom. And I think the pace of that actually, for better or worse, sustained that all the way through.
Yeah, it definitely did. All right, so we got another opinion out here of Godzilla Kong movie. What did you think of it?
I am not a fan of this movie. I give it a solid 2 out of 10. 2 because you had Godzilla and Kong, so that's 2 characters at least that I was mildly entertained. Everybody else, I don't want to be too harsh about it.
Well, be honest, but don't feel bad about ragging on it if you didn't like it.
So The action was fine. The CGI definitely was bombastic and kind of looked off at times, but maybe that was also because it was in IMAX, and that definitely brings out more clarity. The human characters, when you come to movies like this, you don't really come for those kind of characters. It's kind of like Transformers. They're almost. That's how I saw this as one of the sequels to Transformers, not the original.
I can see that.
And to a certain point, I started asking, what is the purpose of them being here? Like Brian Tyree Henry, I understand he was in the first one, but he has no reason to be in this one whatsoever. Even
Comedic relief.
Even with comedic relief, I was not laughing. I could tell his jokes before he could say it, so it's just like I'm not even on par with it. And by the end, with him going around, filming everything with his $60 camcorder, which I still
and the Polaroid pictures.
What the time period is this again?
But maybe it's because where they were, they couldn't use certain types of technology because it probably wouldn't work. That's what I started to think when I saw him with the older versions of stuff. Because think about it, there's certain things that just may not work because of all the different, gravity and all other stuff they were going. That might have been why.
And that makes a lot more sense. Maybe they mentioned it in the movie and it just went completely over my head. So, okay, I will give that the benefit of the doubt, but still, by the end, he didn't get a chance to post it. He didn't get a chance to go back to his subscribers. So, again, I have no idea what he was in the movie for. The other guy who was the dentist, I guess he was able to do more stuff.
He was like MacGyver.
Yeah. So, and I thought it was, honestly, the script was just bad. It was extremely cliche, especially at the beginning with the dialogue and the introduction of characters. The little girl, she's very special. We don't know what's wrong with her. She's having visions. I think something's wrong with me. The mother, no, nothing's wrong with you. Seen that 100 times. And
what would you have liked to see in this movie?
Honestly, I was enjoying it more when it was just Kong. Well, that's another thing. Put more Godzilla in this. Every time they cut back to him, I was like, oh yeah, Godzilla is in this movie. Because he's just roaring, portal in the sky, and then cut to anything else. And then come back to him when the plot is knocking at his door. At least with Kong, there was a little bit.
Well, you know why they had to focus more on Kong, because he thought he was the only one, and he was longing in the beginning. He was sad to be by himself. He lives in this place where all these other animals or creatures or whatever live, but he was alone. So he clearly felt lonely. So when he finally finds his people, let's say, and then they're trying to fight him, that's kind of why I think the focus was on Kong a little bit more, because he finally found his people in this land that he never knew was there.
Just like how you were explaining that Kong was feeling, you were able to get some characterization out of Kong. With Godzilla, there's nothing.
There was a little bit, but you also got to keep in mind, because Kong is an ape, and again, it was centered more on him. I was okay with them not focusing as much on Godzilla. I think when the focus was about him, he came in and he wrecked it, and he did his job as he always will. But because it was leaning a little bit more toward Kong, because he had all these other apes that were there, I think that's why. And the other thing is, it's a lot easier to humanize Kong more than Godzilla in a lot of ways. Traditionally, Godzilla has never been humanized as much as Kong. Kong is an ape. He looks more human. They can do more with the face. He's the protector of humans. He's with humans a little bit more than Godzilla. So traditionally, that would make a little bit more sense to humanize him, because he's a big ape and that we can relate to him more than Godzilla. That's not... If they tried to humanize Godzilla too much, that would really be horrible, because he doesn't need that.
Okay, then I'll tell you what. This is what they should have done. Have it to where it's just a Kong sequel, and when Kong is really down there, like down on his luck, he doesn't know what to do, surprise us with Godzilla's coming in to help him.
Okay, I can see that. I could
So
totally
just
see that.
Give it a Kong, because that's all they kept switching back and forth was Kong and his adopted son. I don't know what he was doing.
Yeah, he gonna adopt a little rugrat.
That's what I think they should have done, because they were only cutting back to Kong and the human characters. Just have Godzilla come in as a surprise to everybody. Then that would make more sense as to why he's not in the movie so much. He's really this glorified cameo, which I would have accepted that more. But when you call it Godzilla Kong, I expect just as much Godzilla as I do Kong.
That's a good point. Yeah, that's
So-
a good point. I don't know. I felt I didn't miss Godzilla in that way. I felt like he was still showing a lot, especially when he curled up in, I forgot the name of that building, the big historic building. Yeah, when he was sleeping in there, like that was genius. I thought that was funny.
They should have done more with that then. But if they're not going to do more, then just do less to where it still has an impact. I feel like it would have had a stronger impact if he had, or not even less, if he just came in at the end to help Kong. Like that was our big surprise.
Well, that's our wrap, guys. Go see Godzilla Kong. I'm going to see it again for sure.